Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our meeting here. Call this meeting to order. And good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I will now call the Transportation Committee to order on September 28, 2022 at 6 p.m. And we have a roll call, please.
Chair Bertucci,
Here.
Committee Member Sheikh,
Present.
Committee Member Kaji.
Here.
Thank you,
Mr.
guys.
Chair, all are present.
Thank you. At this time, I ask all to please join me in the flag salute led by Councilman Sheikh.
Thank you, Chairman Tucci. Please stand and put your right hand on your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome those of you who are joining us this evening in person and virtually. Thank you for your participation. For today's meeting, the public may also view and listen by selecting the link posted on the agenda to the Zoom webinar. Members of the public will be participating as attendees and will remain muted throughout the meeting. Please submit your questions or comments in the Q&A box. Staff will state your questions for the panel following those attending in person. So I'll repeat that portion because it's important. So if you have a question, you're online, please submit your questions and comments in the Q&A box. I'd like to acknowledge our guests from LA Metro. Georgia, please correct me if I say it wrong. Sheridan? Sheridan, thank you. Mobility Corridors Project Manager for C Line, also known as Green Line, extension to Torrance, and also Mark Derking. All right, it couldn't be a Smith, right? No. Mr. Mark Deerking, thank you. And he's Community Relations Manager for Gateway South Bay Cities. At this time, I'd like to introduce myself and ask my colleagues to introduce themselves, please. So my name is Aurelio Matucci. I'm a council member, and today I'll be acting as your chair.
My name is Assam Sheikh. I'm a council member representing District 3, and I'll be a colleague for my chair.
My name is Jonathan Kaji. I'm a council member representing District 1. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. At this time, I'd like to ask Staff Liaison Carlos. Oh gosh, you guys all have hard names. Lazar, easy enough. All right. To introduce members participating in today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Carlos Weezar. I'm a management associate with the City Manager's Office, and today with the City Manager's team, I have Aram Shapirian, City Manager, and Jamie Lee, Assistant to the City Manager. And I do have some staff from our transit department. I'll give it to them to introduce themselves.
Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Kim Turner, Transit Director. My left is
Daniel Lim, Administrative Analyst with Transit.
David Mock, Senior Business Manager with Transit Department.
Mark Deerking, LA Metro.
Thank you. Anybody else? Think we're good? Everyone? All right. At this time, I will turn over the meeting to Kim Turner, Transit Director, for today's presentations.
Yes. Good evening, Honorable Chair and members of the City Council. Again, Kim Turner, Transit Director. Thank you for the opportunity to come before your honorable body with the updates on Torrance Transit and other transit projects that directly affect our city. Today, you have the opportunity to hear about Torrance Transit's routes serving the new Mary K. Giordano Regional Transit Center, as well as an update on the service duplication with Long Beach Transit. In addition, LA Metro will provide an update on the C Line/Green Line extension to Torrance and their next step for that project. Lastly, the City of Torrance will also provide a presentation on its own analysis and outreach efforts for the Sea Line extension to Torrance. With that being said, the first item on the agenda, 5A, is the service change update for the Mary K. Giordano Regional Transit Center, which will be presented by Daniel Lim, Transit Administrative Analyst. Daniel?
Greetings, Honorable Chair and members of the Transportation Committee. I'm Daniel Lim, Administrative Analyst with Transit. Next slide. Transit is planning to have 6 of our routes serve the Mary K. Giordano Regional Transit Center, or RTC. Firstly, Line 1 currently operates hourly between the Del Amo Mall and the Harbor Freeway Station. This route will serve the RTC via Crenshaw Boulevard. Our Rapid 3 limited stop route will resume service and operate between the downtown Long Beach Transit Gallery and the Del Amo Mall, terminating at the RTC. Frequency on the Rapid 3 will be between 30 and 40 minutes during peak hours on weekdays only. Our Line 4X Express route currently operates hourly during peak hours on weekdays between Hawthorne Boulevard at Pacific Coast Highway and Union Station in downtown LA via the 110 Express lanes. Customers who use this route can park and ride from the RTC. Next slide. Line 5 currently operates hourly between Pacific Coast Highway at Crenshaw Boulevard and the Crenshaw Sea Line Station. The route will run on Torrance Boulevard and Crenshaw Boulevard to serve the RTC and continue on Del Amo Boulevard, terminating at El Camino College. Furthermore, Line 6 currently operates hourly on weekdays between Del Amo Mall and the Artesia A-Line Station and will serve the RTC via Crenshaw Boulevard. Line 10 currently operates hourly between Crenshaw Boulevard at Pacific Coast Highway and the Crenshaw Sea Line Station. This route will be extended to the downtown Inglewood K-Line Station as part of Torrance to Florence. Next slide. Benefits of the Line 10 Torrance to Florence service include providing a one-seat ride from Torrance to major destinations that include SoFi Stadium, the Kia Forum, future Intuit Dome, and the Metro K-Line downtown Inglewood Station. Customers can use the RTC to park and ride and take Torrance to Florence, alleviating congestion on National Football League game days and other special events held in the LA Stadium and Entertainment District in Inglewood. Next slide. On this slide are maps showing the entire Line 10 Torrance to Florence route on the left and the extension between the Crenshaw Sea Line Station and the downtown Inglewood K-Line Station on the right. Next slide. Here contains a site plan of the RTC and the 8 bus bays with the proposed bus routes. Additionally, staff is currently working with Greyhound and Flixbus to provide intercity bus service at the RTC. Next slide. This slide contains a zoomed-in section of the changes for the route serving the RTC. Next slide. This concludes my presentation. Staff is available to answer any questions that you may have.
Our members will have an opportunity to ask questions, but I think I'd like to open it up to the public first. So let's open it up to the public for comments. If there are any in-person attendees wishing to speak on the item, you will have 1 minute. Are there any speakers signed up or would like to speak on item 5A? Yeah, please approach the microphone, please.
Hi, Bob Kyoto, interested citizen. I'm just interested, are we going to get hard copy available to see what it was a really quick look. Those of us who have not paid much attention were lost. Thank you.
Can staff address that real quick, if there's hard copies available or PDF online?
David Mock with Transit here. Yes, the PDF of the presentations that you see tonight are available online on the Transportation Committee website under the City of Torrance. And we can also provide copies as needed.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
Hello, this is Porchop. As you all know, I love public transportation. I grew up in a communist country where it was nothing else but public transportation. It was nice and, snuggly with all the people, and you could smell them and feel them. Anyhow, so here in America, I like public transportation because it's a good thing, and I use them in New York and San Francisco, and here also. But I have one problem. The closest bus station is a mile away from my house, and my age is a problem lately. So if you could put a bus stop front of my house, and then I would use it every day, and I would make my whole family use it every day. But I'm looking at a good my walk. I was gonna make an example and come here with a bus, but this 80-degree heat, man, that just did it. So I did not even try. It would have taken me a good hour, but a bus stop for every old people, so they don't have to walk or they don't have to have a car to go to a bus stop, because here in
Mr. Chair,
America,
time's up.
Okay.
so here in America, you need a car to go to a bus stop.
Thank you.
So
Thank
then,
you, Porchop.
thank you.
Thank you. Are you keeping time there? Because I don't see a timer, that's why I'm sorry. I
I'm
don't-
keeping
Okay.
track of time.
Okay, okay.
Chair,
Because I
if we
don't see
could pause for just a second,
Sure.
they need to adjust audio.
them. Okay.
Good evening, I'm Torrance, City Manager, and while we're waiting, we have copies coming.
Great, thank you.
We're getting used to getting back in person, so we'll have some of these logistics sorted out for the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Just so you guys know, we're adjusting audio. Just in case somebody, you guys haven't heard, so I'm not just sitting here. You'll let us know when we're adjusted. Thank you. Proceed, all right. Any other people that wish to speak on item 5A? You have 1 minute.
What's 5A?
The name's David Ortiz. It seems to from what I understand, you guys are really gonna get the train in, which is a wrong idea. You guys wanna put a train in that's gonna cause havoc, homelessness.
We're gonna have, later on, we're gonna have open comments for things that are not on the agenda. We're speaking on the 5A.
5A is what?
5A is the configuration of the service changes that will serve the regional transit center. We will have an opportunity under 5C to address the actual Metro C line, which is, I think, what the gentleman is referring to.
Well, you're talking about the bus stop then, am I correct?
I think you're gonna be talking about, on 5C, you'll be able to speak about the train and the location of it.
And right now, you're talking about the bus stop,
Correct.
which is in the wrong place and doesn't do anybody any good. It's like on Crenshaw, it's gonna cause havoc, but you guys already got it built, so there's nothing you can do about it, so that's my saying. You guys just made a big old mess on Crenshaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, please just approach the, if there's anybody else who wants to speak, just go ahead and get up and get in line real quick.
Hi, I'm Jen. I wasn't planning to talk, but I kind of agree with him. It's wonderful that, but it's not really user-friendly. I work with a lot of seniors, and everything's PDF, computer, and pass this and tap this, and it's not really people who really need a maybe more workshop or introduce them to the more user-friendly kind of environment, so we could give them the passes instead of for them to go to computer and all that. That's all.
Yes, Kim Turner, Transit Director. We will be doing some outreach. We are looking at new technology. Once we change the configuration of our routes, there will be a training opportunity for everybody. And we'll start marketing our service more as well.
Chair, we also have a dedicated transit center, which will be operating at the regional transit center with customer service reps. We also, Transit Department has an ambassador program. Could
Yes.
Director expand on that as far as reaching out to our senior community?
Yes, we have a senior ambassador program that provides training for anyone who would like to utilize our service. We take trips on a bi-monthly basis. We haven't done it recently because of the COVID, but that's something we're gonna implement once we get our service going and the RTC is complete. So again, if there's anyone who needs training on how to operate our service, please give us a call at 310-781-6930. Let me know, and I'll make sure that that happens.
Is that number also available on the website? For people to call in?
That's my office number.
Oh, that's your office number, wow, direct line.
Call me.
Direct line.
Chair David Mock here. Yes, our number is available on our website, and anyone can contact us, and we would be able to help any seniors get in touch with one of our ambassadors, and they would be able to ride with the new transit rider and show them how to use a tap card, how to pay with cash, and the fare, along with where to take the routes to different destinations, including LAX, Long Beach, downtown LA, or Redondo Beach.
All right, so if I understood this correctly, there's gonna be individuals at the transit center that are able, in person, that are able to guide people as to how they need to navigate through the
Yes.
system.
In addition, they'll have the ability to contact our staff. David himself also provides training on how to ride our service. So again, anytime that there's a need, and we get a number of requests, we'll set up a time in which we have staff take them on a trip to where they need to go. A majority of the time, we're taking them downtown, Long Beach, or the airport to make sure that they get to certain points of destinations that they're requesting.
Is there like an instructional video, like on YouTube, that people can go to and say, this is how you look for, this is how you do it? Because quite honestly, I don't ride the bus, never have, and I wouldn't know where to start.
Well, that's one of my secrets. We're planning on putting something together that's unique that no other agency has done, so look forward to that.
So you heard it first here. that
Yes.
There's a secret that's out now.
It's a secret, but we will be doing that for each route to show how to utilize the service.
Okay, kind of navigate through it. yeah.
Yes.
All right. I hope that answers some questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Gabriela Lopez, Torrance resident and homeowner, and I have a question about the Rapid 3. You mentioned that it's going to touch Del Amo Mall and it's going to terminate at the Regional Transit Center. Logically, I don't understand going west and then terminating east of that. How's that going to work? Thank you.
Daniel Lim, Administrative Analyst with Transit. The Rapid 3 route will terminate at the RTC in order to better connect with our other bus routes in our system, such as the lines 1, 4X, 5, 6, and 10. So Rapid 3 will connect to those other services, and David Mock can also elaborate on that as well.
That's correct. Thank you, Daniel. Currently, we do have Line 8 going north and south from the Del Amo Mall to the South Bay Galleria. And so anyone that would typically take the Rapid 3 would be able to take the Line 8 to the South Bay Galleria still. And this would also connect the Rapid 3 with the future Green Line extension coming to the Regional Transit Center. The Rapid 3 is a limited stop service, so it does provide a quicker bus ride for people that are traveling east and west into the city of Torrance.
Seems like a rather short trip, but this also emphasizes the need for the riders to let us know what their needs are so that we can kind of fulfill, whatever's popular to go down whatever route, that we may not have at the time.
That's correct, Chair. And yes, in the past, before we have implemented the service, we did do a large round of public outreach virtually and also riding the buses in person. We did surveys for our riders on all of the routes that are changing, and we also presented the results in the previous Transportation Committee and Council as well. And of course, staff will continue to monitor the riderships and also surveying our bus riders again to make sure that the changes going into the RTC is continue to serve their needs and continue to serve our residents and people who do businesses in Torrance.
It's very important feedback. Anybody else wish to speak?
Hi there, my name is Laura. I live in North Torrance. I
I haven't really kept up on this, but I'm wondering what kind of studies were done on the traffic situation on Crenshaw Boulevard, because already the traffic is so bad and you don't see that many police. They speed like crazy and we've had so many accidents. Is something going to be done with more police patrolling Crenshaw Boulevard? Because the traffic has just gotten out of control, and it's great that we have a central bus area, but will something be done to control the traffic a little bit more?
A study will definitely be done to ensure that the traffic flows smoothly. In addition to that, I'm quite sure Public Works will do some traffic coordination to ensure that the traffic lights are synced. We have a new light, signal light for the actual transit center now, so I'm quite sure they'll be looking at that to make sure that the traffic continues to flow from Torrance Boulevard through to 190th, where we would have the most impact. It's my hopes that it will flow smoothly so that we can stay on time. Our buses also travel along that Crenshaw corridor, so we want to make sure that there is no interruption there as well.
Can I ask a question for that? So a study will be done, but has the study been done so far? Because we don't have patrolling on Crenshaw that much. So right now, the speed is out of control on Crenshaw Boulevard. And people that don't live in North Torrance don't have to deal with that, but it's gotten steadily worse.
I think that may be due to some of the construction, it's not really due to the
No, it's the
actual transit
speeding.
center itself, but
Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I think if we can limit the conversation.
We're getting
Time- time, a lot of-
sidetracked here. but
right, that's a public work issue.
It's a legitimate concern. I think the gist of it is that there's still a lot of construction. It's really hard to determine traffic patterns. I think once we're open, we can better determine what changes need to be made. You know, the station's there.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
there's
it's
really
just
no-
it's
yeah.
the patrolling, it's not, you know, the studies are great and the
Yeah.
buses are great, but we don't see the police around as much for the, until the accidents happen.
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
To the speaker's comment, sometime in November in North Torrance, we'll be scheduling an event with Torrance Police. We haven't yet scheduled the particular venue for the event, but we will be having those, we'll have the chief of police and also those officers who cover District 1 as their beat. So I think that'll be an appropriate time to raise the issue of traffic, and I do agree, the speeds are excessive on Crenshaw, so. But I also believe that as the road work begins on Crenshaw, from Artesia to Redondo Beach Boulevard, and the street gets pulled up, I think people will drive slower.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Has anybody submitted any questions online or comments received for this item?
Thank you, Chair. There aren't any online questions at the moment.
All right, I'll bring it up here. Any committee members have any questions or comments or concerns? Speak up now.
Thank you, Chair. Just refer to the presentation Mr. Lim had earlier. You mentioned that there will be some of the comments where it's not user-friendly, and you said that there will be some outreach to help people understand. But my question is there a way to modify if the concerns from the community is that this need to be modified, or you have only one type of program and that cannot be modified, and you just have to live with that and just going to teach how to?
No, for teaching the community how to write the service and/or our outreach can be changed at any time at the request of the public. Whatever we need to do to ensure that they are fully aware of how we operate, we can do that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, I'm going to look for a motion to accept and file item 5A.
I make a motion to accept and file item 5A.
I second.
Chair Martucci,
Yes.
Committee Member Sheikh,
Yes.
Committee Member Kaji.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion carries.
Thank you. All right, let's go back to Kim Turner on item 5B.
Thank you, Chair. The next item on the agenda is 5B, is an update on the service duplication with Long Beach Transit, which will be presented by me, Kim Turner, Transit Director. Next slide, please. As you may know, the Long Beach Transit launched its new fixed route service for the city of Carson in September of 2021. The new service included assuming operations of the former Carson Circuit and expanded beyond its original service boundary. While Torrance Transit believes that regional connectivity in public transportation is beneficial, Long Beach Transit has failed to provide regional coordination with municipal operators on its new service in the city of Carson. LBT's new Line 4 and Line 8 created service duplication with Torrance Transit, taking away our ridership from our Line 3 and Rapid 3, and refused to work in good faith with Transit early on for a solution that would alleviate the issue. Therefore, Torrance Transit requested the assistance of the Los Angeles County Municipal Operators Association, LACMOA, to help resolve the very important matter. Next slide. The LACMOA Task Force and LA Metro staff conducted a thorough review of the California Public Utility Code and the State Transportation Development Act, known as TDA, and found that Long Beach Transit did not provide proper notice and coordination of service with Torrance Transit prior to launching its new service in the city of Carson. It also found that Long Beach Transit's new Route 4 and 8 expanded beyond the old Carson Circuit service boundary. Therefore, these new routes would compete with or divert patronage from our existing transit services. Next slide, please. The LACMOA Mediation Task Force recommends that both Long Beach Transit and Torrance Transit reconvene during the next 3 months in good faith to discuss various opportunities for achieving greater coordination of service for the region. Staff will be working with them to create a meeting or schedule a meeting within the next 3 months, and we'll get back to the committee with the update. That concludes my presentation, and staff and I are available for any questions or comments you may have.
Route wars. All right. We should do a show. I just wanted to let you guys know the presentation's missing a page, and it looks like it's off by a page. So we were actually missing, I think, page 3 is a different one. So I just want to make sure it gets corrected, whatever we put out to the public, that it's matching what we did in the presentation.
Okay,
And not
sure.
that. Yeah, this one's missing a page. All right. Let's go ahead and open this up to the public, and we'll have an opportunity to ask questions a little later. All right. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item? You have 1 minute. You can just walk up to the mic and let us know your thoughts. Anyone? Mr. Porkchop.
Just so you know somebody cares here or paying attention. I don't know who is it affect, the rider sharing is done in every city, Your bus is going empty, their bus is going empty. It's absolutely no difference, you know what I mean? In my opinion, a bus ride should be free and maybe people would use it, you know what I mean? But who rides which bus? Actually, the question is, why don't people ride the buses? And the answer is pretty obvious, Then I told my wife, you guys need bus drivers, and I'm gonna apply. She told me she's just gonna kill me right on the spot. And I said, why would you do that? I bring home the bread and butter. And then she says, all those people who are riding the buses, you're not coming in the house after, So that's another problem. So no need to fight. No need to fight. Just let it go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porkchop. Are you?
Good to see you.
Nice seeing you.
My name is Richard Beaver, and one thing I want to say about the buses that serve the entire Los Angeles area is Metro and all the municipal operators provide us with lousy bus service. I have lived on the East Coast before I moved out here, and all the transit agencies in the East run their trains and buses much more frequently. Now, if I want to take a bus from Torrance to the Harbor Gateway Station to connect to the, it's had so many names, the Silver Line 91, now it's the J Line, that provides express service to downtown LA. That bus runs only every 45 minutes. It was that way even before the pandemic. If I want to go downtown and go to the music center or somewhere and come home on the bus.
I'm sorry, Mr. Weaver, we only had 1 minute. But you're welcome to, anybody out there that feel that you're shortchanged, just email us or call the phone number. We want to hear from everyone what your suggestions are. I think the gist of it is the convenience or the lack of. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else?
Name's David Ortiz, resident of Torrance. I just don't get what the heck you guys were talking about, 5B. It meant nothing to me. It like went over my head. I mean, what the heck are you guys trying to explain to me about Long Beach and Torrance and the transit system? I mean, you guys are talking and we're gonna pass something that I don't even know. So I don't know if anybody else understood what you were saying, but I sure in the heck didn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Duplication of services, right? We just want to make sure that our buses are being used in the most efficient way.
Councilman Adams, point as city manager, the concern that Torrance Transit has, because there's a formula-based funding, when we have, there's a reason why agencies provide a particular route coverage. And then when we start to overlap, that has an impact on the ridership, which will have an impact.
On both agencies.
Exactly. So the goal is to achieve coordination, so we're not duplicating service and in essence, reducing coverage availability in other areas. Because our revenue miles provided has a direct linkage to our ability to receive funding. That's the reason that we're concerned.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? 1 minute. Go ahead, please.
For someone who didn't plan to talk, I should talk a lot. So, this is first time here, and Transportation Committee, I live here 40 years. Is this part of senior transportation or it's different budget? Because I'm more interested in senior transportation, because right now you're giving taxi vouchers to the seniors. Some other cities, they have their own buses for door-to-door service. Access is for everyone, but I'm really interested in your transportation for the seniors from point one to the other, door-to-door type of service. Is this different? I'm in the wrong committee.
We're talking about an actual item. You can always contact us and let us know exactly what you're looking for and see if there's a program that we have.
Exactly. We have our Torrance Community Transportation Program, and if she'd like to contact our office, James Lee, who's the overseer of that program, will definitely work with her on that. We will be bringing back items as we address that program, but today it's in regards to these three
To the agenda,
topics.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to try to stick to the agenda, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to be heard.
Chairman Tucci, just point of clarification, we do have staff in the audience, and we're going to follow up with every single individual that has questions or follow-up. This is a great opportunity for us to engage
You know what,
with
we're
the folks
here,
in
might as
Tuesday
well
Transit.
Yeah.
engage,
Might as well,
exactly.
right.
That's great. That's
We're
awesome.
good.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Going once, going twice. Anybody submit any questions online?
Thank you, Chair. There are currently no questions online, but the link to tonight's meeting documents and everything was dropped to the online viewers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll bring it up here. Any committee members want to ask any questions, concerns, suggestions on item 5B?
Thank you, Chair. I just have one clarification. This overlap is pretty frequent, or it's very rare?
Can you repeat the question again?
The duplication, the overlap of these services that Long Beach is coming here without letting you know? Is that kind of occurrences more often, or this is once in a blue moon?
Once in a blue moon.
Okay. And you just, what's the remedy for that? How are you gonna fix that?
Well, this time it was because we could not, negotiate in good faith. We had to reach out to one of our associations that, the municipal operator, that governs the municipal operators, which is the Los Angeles County Municipal Operators Association, and Metro Staff to
Coordinate.
to investigate, to determine that the PUC code was violated. It was their understanding that it wasn't. It was my understanding that it was, and we need to come to an agreement on that. So therefore, we have this mediation task force come to the table, look at all the information, and they then drafted a letter to the Metro Board citing that the PUC was violated and that we are going to talk about it within the next 90 days to come up with an agreement. And if we don't, then we can pursue action as a result.
And can you please explain what PUC stands for as an acronym?
Public Utility Code.
Which,
Code.
Code?
It's a code. It's a code that they
Public
violated.
commuter-
It's a code, and it's a number to the code.
Maybe it's a different reference in the transit industry versus the
Yeah,
Public Utilities Commission,
Ah,
which
gotcha.
most of us are used
Okay,
to.
cool.
yes, it's a code.
You gotta love acronyms.
Sorry, I think I mentioned it
Yeah.
during my script,
Yeah,
so.
I think so,
yeah.
yeah.
Just a follow-up question. So when will that stop? Do we know, have they stopped already, or
No, they're still doing it.
they're still doing it?
Mhm.
Okay.
It'll stop after 90 days, probably.
Mm.
We'll see.
Will
But
that,
we're looking to make a compromise. We'll see what we can do, because there are some other actions we'd like to take, so hopefully. Okay.
is that causing confusion in the community, and how do we eradicate that so they don't get confused?
You want to speak on it? David is a part of the process.
Yes, David Mock with Transit. So the LA Metro and LACMOA mediating task force, because of this process, had decided to come up with extra step to prevent this from happening in the future. And this way ensures that all transit agency will be coordinating and working together so that this problem wouldn't arise again. And yes, as far as the community and the transit bus rider, there is no current effects on them as far as what route they can take or not take. The transit riders are free to take any routes that are available. Our goal is just to work with Long Beach Transit and have better coordination in the future so that we don't come to this issue again.
Right. What happens is if an agency is coming into your corridor, there's generally the South Bay, not the Governance Council, but the South Bay Committee, and they discuss it. So when Gardena wanted to change service, or another agency wants to change, we come together, we talk about it early on before it's even implemented, and it's generally resolved. This is the first time we haven't been able to resolve the issue.
Thank you, Mr. Ernst. Thank you, Chair.
You're good? All right, now, I have a question. Is there a centralized location where the routes are submitted and to where they can be overlapped, let's say on a screen, to where we know where each agency, and then also if there's a change in one of the routes, like we've changed routes here, is there a notification that goes out to other agencies that might be affected?
Right, agencies submit letters. We get letters from Norwalk, Culver City, Santa Monica, whenever they're changing. But prior to that, there is the South Bay Working Group for those agencies within our area. We work together, so again, that was a conversation that should have taken place at that working group.
Okay,
That's the
so-
central location for us, I would say.
Okay, and is there a governing body that can actually say, yes, the code was violated, therefore you have 90 days to quit that route, or?
That was the mediation task force that we put together to discuss it, because it had never been done before.
Never had been done before. Okay. New ground, new ground. Very good. Well, if there's anything else, I'm looking for a motion to accept and file on this one as well.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept and file the update as presented by Director Turner.
Second?
Chair Matucci,
Yes.
Committee Member Sheikh,
Yes.
Committee Member Kaji.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion carries.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to 5 Charlie, 5C, Kim Turner.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Up next will be a presentation from Ms. Georgia Sheridan to provide updates on Line C extension, followed by a presentation from Mr. David Mock regarding, our Senior Business Manager, regarding the city's position on the alignment alternatives for the C line extension project. Ms. Sheridan.
Okay, I just want to kick off. My name is Mark Dierking with Metro.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair Matucci, for having us here today. I've been on this project now, Sea Line, Green Line Extension, since 2016-17. We're really interested in moving things forward and getting as much engagement and outreach in the local area as possible. So we thank you for bringing us tonight. We just finished up a round of extensive public outreach with 3 meetings in person along the route to go over where we are to date, and then also a virtual meeting. And so I think this is a good opportune point during that process before we launch into the final environmental to give you an update and status report on where we are. So with that, we will always stand ready to answer your questions, and there's contact information here. And folks were talking earlier about Metro service. We're also available to lend assistance on those issues as well. So thank you. Georgia?
Okay, thank you, Mark, and good evening, commissioners and member of the public. If we can go to our next slide. So tonight we want to give an overview of the project in case anyone is not familiar with what we're studying. This is the C or Green Line extension to Torrance. Discuss the design options that you'll be seeing in the draft environmental document, which we plan to publish next year, and then talk a little bit through the environmental process, our outreach, and next steps in terms of decision making. So, next slide, please. We wanted to start with the regional rail network. So, very exciting news this weekend. The K line, also known as the Crenshaw LAX line, will be opening. That is going to connect the Expo line, which connects Santa Monica, downtown LA, and goes south, which will connect to the C or Green line and connect us to LAX. So this will be opening in phases. I actually got to take a sneak peek this past weekend, and it's very exciting to see these long projects get built. So we're very excited with that. The C line extension to Torrance is a connection ultimately that will go all the way up to the K line and connect the C line as well as the Expo line. And later in Metro's planning process, we have another project which will extend it even further to the D or Purple line and B Red line in Hollywood. So in the future, we're looking at really a north-south transit spine, which means you will be able to go from Torrance all the way to Hollywood without having to go to downtown LA to switch trains. Next slide. So quick overview of the project. This is 4.5 miles. It's light rail. It will be, again, an extension of our existing C line, which ends at the Redondo Beach Marine Station today. We're planning 2 new rail stations, one in Redondo Beach, one in Torrance. We project that we'll have between 4,000 and 5,000 new riders a day. These are people that have never ridden transit, and we expect to join the network. But we also anticipate between 11,000 and 15,000 trips per day on the project. So that could be people that might be connecting at a station today or a bus, and now are going to have an easier connection in Redondo Beach or Torrance with these 2 new stations. We have funding from Measure M and R. We have approximately $891 million. I will note that that is in 2015 dollars, and we are experiencing inflation over time, particularly this year. And the project is aiming to open between 2030 and 2033 per Measure M schedule, and we'll discuss a little bit later in the presentation what it would take to open earlier than that. In the draft environmental document, we are looking at 3 different options and 2 different routes or alignments. So the first alignment that we're looking at is the Metro right-of-way. This is the freight corridor that is known as the Harbor Subdivision Freight Corridor. It goes all the way up to downtown LA and down to the port. This section has been studied over the years, so we're looking at 2 options along the right-of-way. One would be elevated to start and then go down to run at street level, which we also refer to as at grade. The second option is looking at being on the Metro right-of-way, but starting in a trench, which would be below street level, and then come back up to street level. Along Hawthorne, which is the second alignment, we are looking at an entirely elevated configuration. So that would start elevated, travel along the 405, and then turn onto Hawthorne Boulevard between around 162nd down to 190th, where we would turn back onto the Metro right-of-way. So on the map, and you can see 3 different colors, I think it's important to note that between 190th Street and the Torrance Transit Center, these options are all the same. So in the city of Torrance, the majority of the city of Torrance has the same options being studied, which is along the Metro right-of-way, the freight corridor, and ending at the Torrance Transit Center. Next. So these are images that explain the 3 different configurations. We tend to call these the profile of light rails. So the profile is the height. In some areas that we're looking at elevated, in other areas we're looking at running at street level, and then in some areas we're looking at trench. And the reason we're looking at different heights of light rail correspond to the level of traffic that might be on a street, whether or not we need to run light rail separate from street traffic, and in some cases some questions from the community of wanting to see if we could put it below street level, sort of out of sight in some residential areas. So those are the 3 options. Next slide. So we're gonna go through these 3 options one at a time, and we have some sketches to explain the configuration. We'll start with the Metro right-of-way again. The image at the top left shows how it would be elevated, and then it would come down to run at grade or at street level. Along this corridor, there is a single freight track. We would keep the freight track and we would shift it to make room for the light rail. And in some cases, there's enough room in the right-of-way, which is about 100 feet, to also add a walking path for walking, bikes, strollers, whatever you have. So studying that as part of the project. Next slide. The next option in the same area looks at going in an underground trench to start through the city of Lawndale and then coming up to run at grade. We're also looking at a undercrossing at 182nd Street, and then it would come back up and continue all the way at grade into Torrance. And I'll just note that the northern part of the study area, we have 2 major streets, Inglewood and Manhattan Beach Boulevard, that we need to cross if we were on this option. They both provide access to the 405, so that's why we're looking at either being above or below in that area. It's a busy area and we can't have the light rail crossing the street at the same time as traffic. Now there are some other areas where we don't have street crossings or it's such low volume of traffic where we could run at street level. Next slide. This is going to walk you through the Hawthorne Boulevard alignment. So we would start at the same station, which is the Redondo Beach Marine Station, and then we would turn off and go east towards the 405. We would be running on the very edge of the 405. You can see the elevated structure in the top image. And then around 162nd Street, we would actually fly over the 405 on ramps, and then we would turn onto Hawthorne Boulevard and run in the center median of Hawthorne Boulevard all the way down to 190th Street. In a previous phase, we were looking at running at street level in some areas, and what we found as we got deeper into our analysis is that Hawthorne Boulevard is such a busy street that to cross that street means that you might need to actually wait in the median because you might not be able to get all the way across the street. And if we had light rail trains running in the median and people waiting and people turning left, because there's a lot of left-hand turn lanes, there really wasn't enough room to make all of the modes safe. And so once we started looking at elevating the middle section near the South Bay Galleria, we realized that we would have kind of a roller coaster effect where you would be elevated near the 405, you would come down, you would go back up to address some of these street crossings, come down, and then go back up around 190th, and you would essentially end up with retaining walls blocking most of the street. So that pushed us going into an entirely elevated configuration. So that's something new that not everyone has seen since our last phase of the study. Next slide. And these are, again, some images that show how it would run in the middle of the street. I should point out that the station along Hawthorne would be at the South Bay Galleria, just south of Artesia. And I failed to mention that the other station on the right-of-way would be at the other side of the Galleria near the Target if we were along the metro right-of-way. The second image you can see on the slide shows that around, I think it's 186th Street, we would actually start turning to get back onto the metro right-of-way. So we would be flying over the east side of the street to return to the metro right-of-way around 190. Next slide. So as we continue into Torrance, the character changes from being more residential and commercial into the industrial corridor as we then approach the Torrance Transit Center. We have been working with the city staff on our plans, and we will continue to do so. Right now, we're at about a 15% level of design, and so it's typical that Metro would only take our planning to 15% design at this phase because we're studying multiple options. Once the Metro board selects an option, then we would take the design and advance it. So a lot of what we have is high level, and we would refer to the project as the project footprint. So what we're trying to do right now is understand how much space does the project take up, and what does it look like, how would we operate it, how would we maintain it, and then that gets analyzed in the draft environmental document. Once we pass that next stage, then we would continue design. Next slide. So this is a zoomed in look at the Torrance Transit Center. So the pink or the purple, depending on how it looks to you, is where we would have our light rail platform. You would get off the platform, and then you can see kind of a dashed line. This is the connection walking path that you would take to get to the Torrance Transit Center and either take a bus or walk to a future parking garage or future development that might be there one day. And we're also looking at extending that walking path all the way to Crenshaw Boulevard, so that if there are people that are coming from the south and those neighborhoods, they would have easy access to the station. Next slide. As I mentioned, we are in our environmental study. So this is a list of the topic areas that we are studying as part of our environmental analysis. The draft EIR will be published next year. This document is going to describe the project, so there'll be description narrative, there'll be images to explain the project, and then there'll be these various chapters which will look at, are there environmental impacts that are posed by this project in these different topic areas? And if there are, then are there mitigations that Metro could propose to reduce or eliminate those impacts? So, aesthetics, air quality, noise and vibration, utilities, there are a lot of different topics that will be in this document. Next slide. I think it's really important to note that the environmental document is not the decision-making document. It's a disclosure document that's discussing, again, these topic areas. There are other topics that are important to the public and to the community that are outside of that list that we saw on that slide. So things like how the community feels about the project, what they said during our outreach process, what are the project costs, what are the ridership, estimates? Are there going to be potential property acquisitions that are needed or changes to the community like on-street parking? In terms of those topic areas, our plan is to publish that information at the same time as we release the draft EIR so that the public and the decision makers have a full view of the project. And then ultimately, the Metro Board is the party that votes to select one of these three options that we're studying. And their decision is not going to be just based on the draft EIR, it's going to be based on a whole host of project information. So our goal is to disclose that next year. We will have public hearings as part of our draft EIR process. And then after those public hearings occur, we will go to the Metro Board and they will make a selection. I'm going to turn it over, next slide, to Mark to talk through some of the outreach that we've been doing over the last few years.
So yes, we've had an extensive set of outreach going back to even before our alternative analysis in 2017. We were out in the cities in the South Bay back until 10 years before that. So this is our next wave. I think that we had a lot of over the last 4 meetings, 3 in person and 1 online. We had over 1,350 attendees attend all of those events. So that's very good attendance for this meeting. So we are definitely getting the word out there. Prior to that, we had neighborhood walks. Since we were all in lockdown, we wanted to create an exercise where we could at least get out as soon as things started opening up. So we had these community walks, 12 of them in all. Some of them were at the request of additional neighbors that wanted to take a look in their neighborhood and have us walk that area and talk to them about what's going on. We had over 400 community members at those meetings. There you can see the open houses. We had 4 open houses, 600 community meetings members at those. And we've had a lot of people virtually online to take a look at the project and walk through things. As a summary on the next slide, you can see some of the outreach themes. These are not unusual to light rail projects, but you can see noise and vibration. People are concerned about impacts to property, traffic, aesthetics, how it's going to look, construction, public safety, and ridership, among many others. So these are some of the themes we've been hearing, and we are working for the next set of environmental document to go over that. So with that, the next part is very important. I'll give that back to Georgia to talk through the project schedule and the timing and what's coming up next.
Okay, so just to recap our next steps, we started our public scoping, so that's the environmental scoping process in 2021. We've been working on the project design. We actually have a great video, so I went through these different design options pretty quickly, but we do have a video and there's a link on the final slide. So if you're curious, I think that really helps explain the project well. And now we're in the middle of our environmental analysis, hoping to wrap that up this year so that we could publish the draft EIR after the holidays in 2023, so early 2023. As part of publishing the draft environmental document, there'll be a formal review period so people can submit written comments. They can come to one of our public hearings and give comment there. These comments will be formalized in the final EIR, so all of the comments that are made as part of that process will be responded to in the final environmental document. After we get through the public hearings next year, so 2023, likely next spring or summer, that's when we would have the Metro Board weigh in. So we would say, here's everything that we've studied, here are the findings from the draft environmental document, here's what the public has said, here's the cost, here's all these other project data points. This is the alignment that we would recommend, and then they can choose to select that alignment, or they can choose to come up with their own alignment, or they could choose to come up with something different. So at this stage, we have no preferred alignment. We are waiting to get through the draft environmental analysis and the public hearings. We're still studying, so we don't have a preference at Metro yet. That would be ultimately for the board to decide. After the board, assuming the board selects one of these alignments, then the project becomes really on track to finish the design. We would enter another level of design called preliminary engineering, and then we would complete the final environmental document, which would then put us on the pathway to prepare for acquisitions, construction plans, working with the cities on permitting. So there's many steps ahead. Again, we are hoping to open by 2030 to 2033. Once we know which alignment we have, then we can really get into the construction details, because it is going to be very different to construct along the metro right-of-way versus, for example, constructing along Hawthorne Boulevard. Next slide. So we did want to try to anticipate some of your questions. At some of our previous meetings with the city, we've heard not only excitement for the project, but also a desire to have it open sooner if possible, in time for the 28 Olympics, which will be in Los Angeles. We have been talking internally about what that would take. I will say it's a heavy lift because we are still getting through this pandemic, and we still have supply chain issues, inflation, but this is sort of what it would take to really accelerate. So the first thing is expedited review and approvals and procurement. So there's a lot of different parties that review our drawings and approve different design plans, not just the cities, but lots of private companies, utilities. There's a lot of utilities in this area. Everyone would have to agree to a very truncated review and very intensive review and approval process. Similarly, we would have to go out and get construction bids on a tighter time frame. It typically takes us a while to put together that information. We would also need to have a very intense construction period. So things like nighttime work might be something that would need to be considered more than maybe nighttime work would be if we weren't on a very intense construction schedule. And then lastly, funding. Our Measure M dollars are set on a schedule per the Measure M opening date. So if we wanted to open sooner, it means we need to identify those dollars sooner, which means looking probably for alternative funding sources to make that happen. I think our next slide is our last slide, which is our contact information and some links for the project in case anyone wants additional information. I will say we've been trying to put as much information as possible on the web. I think in some ways the pandemic trained us to have more information virtually, and it's now that we're doing more in person, it's been a nice complement to be able to reach people both in person and at home via the web. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
Ms. Sheridan and Mr. Durking. Somebody say anything? Because we go to him next.
Yes, I just had a quick question on this presentation. How is the public available to reach this? Do you have like a website?
So
Is
on the last
the
slide,
PDF?
the one that's up there now,
Yeah.
we have both on the website. There's a form you can fill out, and you can get on our mailing list. You can also email us at greenlineextension@metro.net for those of you at home. And then there's a snail mail or U.S. mail down below that you can also send in a written response or possible. And there's also a hotline number there, so if you want to call in and leave a message, and we can get back to you then.
You have that phone number for the record, so that.
Sure, that phone number is 213-922-4004. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just want to again say thank you, Mr. Durkee and Ms. Sheridan. We'll have Mr. Mock do our presentation of our analysis, and then at the end, we'll ask questions of both parties.
Both. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Good evening, Honorable Chair and members of the Transportation Committee. My name is David Mock, Senior Business Manager with Transit Department. Next slide, please. Based on the proposed alignments that Metro presented here tonight for the public and for your honorable body, the City of Torrance is strongly opposed to the Hawthorne Boulevard alignment. Our city is advocating for the proposed C-line extension to Torrance using the existing Metro right-of-way. This is because the right-of-way alignment will not encroach on the 405 freeway and will not remove parking and landscaping from Hawthorne Boulevard center median, and therefore it would leave many cities and residents unaffected. The right-of-way will also avoid additional costs and ensure an earlier completion date for the project. Utilizing the right-of-way will ensure that existing transit investment like the new Redondo Beach Transit Center and the Mary K. Giordano Transit Center are directly served by the proposed rail line, and it would create a better bus-rail connectivity. Last but not least, all the benefits as a result of the Sea Line extension to Torrance will be realized sooner with the right-of-way alignment. Next step, please. The proposed Hawthorne Boulevard alignment would create significant adverse impacts to the corridor. Firstly, this alignment is inconsistent with Metro's recent award for the planning and construction of the new Redondo Beach City Transit Center as one of its proposed stops. This new transit center was designed and funded to leverage its proximity to the existing Metro right-of-way. The Hawthorne Boulevard alternative would also add approximately a half mile or at least a 10-minute walk between light rail and bus service connections. Additionally, the new station on Hawthorne Boulevard would create accessibility issues for passengers with mobility impairment, seniors who are trying to make connection with bus service at the Redondo Beach Transit Center. Ultimately, the Hawthorne Boulevard alternative would become a barrier for creating seamless and regional connectivity for buses and rail. Next slide, please. In addition to creating the impacts for pedestrian connecting with bus service at the Redondo Beach Transit Center, the elevated Hawthorne Boulevard alignment may also require a longitudinal encroachment along the portion of the 405 freeway between Inglewood and Hawthorne Boulevard. This means that the project would need additional approval from the Federal Highway Administration and clearances from the National Environment Protection Agency. These additional layers of approval would result in further delays and add more cost to the project. Next slide, please. Other adverse impacts that staff have examined for the elevated Hawthorne Boulevard alignment include modification or removal of travel lanes and turn pockets along the city of Lawndale, Redondo Beach, and the city of Torrance. This alignment would also create loss in center median parking for the city of Lawndale as a result, and could severely impact existing businesses along both sides of the Hawthorne Boulevard. Next slide, please. Because the Hawthorne Boulevard is owned by Caltrans, the proposed elevated alignment would require additional right-of-way acquisitions, possibly from Lawndale and also from Caltrans. Some of the expenses have yet been calculated for this project. Moreover, having an elevated rail structure on Hawthorne Boulevard would undoubtedly cast a large shadow on businesses and homes along the corridor and potentially affecting the lighting conditions of this corridor. Next slide, please. In terms of cost, the elevated Hawthorne Boulevard alignment is inconsistent with prior funding from Measure R and Measure M initiatives, and also the additional funding to expedite the project to completion by 2028 Olympics. When comparing both alternatives, the Hawthorne Boulevard alignment can potentially become more expensive and would also delay the project past year 2023. On the other hand, the alignment for the right-of-way would be more likely to meet the timeline as indicated in Measure M. Next slide, please. The Sea Line extension to Torrance has been a long-awaited and highly anticipated project for the South Bay regions because it provides many environmental and regional benefits to the area. With this light rail, the region will see an improvement in air quality, traffic congestion relief on major corridors, and have direct access to Los Angeles World Airport and the new People Mover, which is scheduled to be open 2024-2025. The region will finally have seamless regional connectivity for rail and buses. However, the proposed Hawthorne Boulevard alignment would render some of these benefits unrealized and further delay due to additional costs, right-of-way acquisitions, and additional approvals from other agencies and entities. And it would also miss a major opportunity to utilize the new transit hub like the Redondo Beach Transit Center to its full potential. Next slide, please. Staff has been continuing the effort to educate and inform residents and businesses about the new Sea Line extension to Torrance and the potential impacts of the Hawthorne Boulevard alignment if it comes down. Staff also made Torrance residents aware of the city's support for the right-of-way alignment and has spoken with over 60 businesses along the Hawthorne Boulevard in the city of Torrance. Many residents and businesses support the right-of-way alternative. There will be a continued effort to engage residents of Torrance along with gathering signatures of support for the right-of-way as Metro moves forward with its environmental impact assessment. Staff is aware that Metro is currently still looking at different alternatives and looking at how this would affect the residents. We will continue to update the honorable body as more information from Metro releases next year. Next slide, please. Staff has made flyer available tonight where the public can take with them home. There's a QR code on the flyer to scan for more information and also to affirm their support for the right-of-way alignment. We also have staff in the chambers tonight that would love to talk to you about getting your support for the right-of-way alignment and get your signature so that we may bring that forward to the council and to Metro Board to show that the city is in support of the right-of-way. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of information to absorb, and I'd like to open it up to the public. Again, we're speaking on the Sea Line extension. So please try to stay on topic if you can. 1 minute each.
Okay. Good evening. Pamela Lane Combar, Torrance resident for 45 years, homeowner for 30. I got to go on a walk on Row with the citizens who live in North Redondo along the 182nd up by the Galleria and everything. We climbed a ladder. We looked over the retaining wall at the single track, and it's narrow as it is. These tracks will potentially be like within 12 feet of their walls. The trains will be running 12 plus hours, 7 minutes at 7-minute intervals. These homes, their lives are going to be destroyed if this goes through Row. Almost 100 homes between Lawndale and Redondo Beach will be affected. The elevated cost, the cost for the elevated would end up being less than the mitigation needed to fix the Row options. And there's soil conditions already. There's a sunken patio and
I'm
ruts
sorry
already.
that we're keeping it at 1 minute. I'm sorry.
Okay. And there's
Yeah.
pipelines under the rail, under Row already.
Thank you. Thank you. But again, I invite everyone to contact staff and let them know your feelings outside of this meeting.
Hi, my name is David Hensler, and I just wanted to comment on how sad it is that this is being rammed down our throats. I think ridership is grossly overinflated, and I think the number of lives that are going to be impacted by this, by decisions made by people that aren't going to be affected by it. Because if it goes down Hawthorne, I know the EIR is going to say that there will be no traffic impact, because that's what EIRs always say. I mean, when you pay for it, you can get them to say anything you want. It'll impact a number, everybody from Palos Verdes all going to the freeway every day, it will impact those people. If it goes in the right-of-way, 900 homes are going to be impacted every single day. But of course, the EIR is going to say there's, we can mitigate vibration, we can mitigate noise, because they always do. So, the ridership is overinflated. This, to me, is like a bullet train.
Thank you.
Could I adjust the mic here? I am Ray Holler. I'm truly shocked by the city staff presentation. It seems wildly premature without having at least the draft environmental impact report. I don't know what, sir, I don't know what you're basing your decisions on. I mean, I'd be very interested in seeing that, but I'd at least like to get a set of these charts so that people like me, besides the people who just spoke, can rebut the things that you've said, the assumptions you've made. You kind of, it's a lot of soft. Well, it might encroach on 405. Many people support the row that you talked to. You showed the barbecues galore right there. There's no parking in the median in Hawthorne Boulevard right there. So I think that I'm stunned. And I've pretty much run out of time. Let me just tell you, I love Torrance bus number 8. I take it to the airport. I could take it to like 4 or 5 doctors I see. I can take it to the mall. It's like $1. It's.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Osborne. I'm a retired aerospace engineer, and I'm also a resident of Redondo Beach. I've walked the row many times, and I've been involved since 2018 when you had the meeting downtown, and Redondo recommended the Hawthorne elevated route. I understand why you picked the routes you did, because it doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect all the homeowners that are on the row. But I've also heard you guys make a lot of incorrect statements. I'm digressing from my talk here, because I've been on almost all the walks that Metro has conducted, and they have said different things than what you said in your thing. And for one, their senior engineer, Mr. Tyler Bonstead, said that the option with a row with mitigations and the Hawthorne elevated,
Thank you. Thank you. I understand. I'm sorry, we were limited to 1 minute each, but please, please write us and let us know your feelings on paper.
Good evening, Jim Eklund. I'm a Torrance resident, and I would like to agree with Torrance to put a train where the train tracks are, because when residents moved and next to a train track, they expected trains to run by. I know not this many, but no one on Torrance Boulevard expected a train to run along Torrance Boulevard. So I agree with your proposal. Thanks.
I believe you meant Hawthorne Boulevard, correct? Yeah, just for the record.
The red car ran along it, okay?
Yeah, anyone else?
Red car.
There's not that many residents on.
Anyone else? Please, let's keep the comments here, please. Thank you.
Hi. I would like just mention to you, California and this region, Los Angeles region had the red car. The guy just mentioned it. It was a great system. A great guy built it, and it disappeared. And people argue about it. Why? I tell you why. Because people could afford cars, and people like to go door to doors. I get in my car on my driveway and go to the Disney theater in downtown with parking and everything. And I don't have to deal with the homeless. I don't have to deal with this and that. And we don't have to elevate. We don't have to dig. We have already roads. If you put in just buses on the existing roads, one bus takes away 50 people or 100 people, and that's been 50 cars. We don't need this, elevate that, dig this out, bury this, sell people houses, have good bus service on the existing roads and freeway.
Thank you. Thank you, Park.
I want to say that I think, in general, Metro does a lousy service of providing transportation in this area. Originally, I was in favor of the row and not on Hawthorne Boulevard, but after hearing some of the other people here, and I know a lot of the homes in Redondo Beach are right up against the row, I can understand how they feel. We don't have express service on most of our rail and bus lines. The buses do not run frequently enough. And frankly, I think What Metro does is a disgrace to all of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the time and place to speak on 5C, the C line extension, if you wish to speak. Now's the time. Going once. All right, we'll open it up to online if there's anybody online. The voice from above.
Thank you, Chair. There currently aren't any questions for the online attendees.
Okay, great, thank you. I'll bring it up here. My committee members would like to speak on this. Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, Chair. I have lots of questions. First of all, thank you for the presentation. That was very helpful. Understand some of the questions. The three options that you're suggesting, why not to look at the fourth option, going underground? So, I mean, that may not have a lot of problems for the residents. That may give a little different touch. I mean, not a lot of construction, not impacting the businesses as the other three options. And that was, in fact, recommended by also my colleague, Councilman Kaji, so I want to credit that, thinking outside the box. The other questions that I have, I know that you're going to say that's going to cost a lot more money, I understand, and but this will be done for the benefit for the centuries to come, and I think that may be a little bit better option if we can get some funding and so forth. I'm going to go back and forth, so bear with me. The K line that you mentioned earlier that was just completed, how long it took to complete that K line, just out of curiosity? And was that on time? How much was that impacted to the neighbors? Was that according to the schedule? How much?
I think the K line opening up did face some challenges in terms of delays in construction. So I think that's been documented in local newspaper outlets and such. So I don't remember how long out of date it is or overdue it is, but there were also some cost overruns, and I think that was really more of a contracting issue. We had some difficulties with the prime contractor on the project, but for what it's worth, a lot of metro projects now are coming out, like the Purple Line extension and the regional connector, that are having better contractor issues and better results and better timelines.
So it was not finished online, that's what I'm hearing.
It was delayed, yes, it was delayed.
How
Yes,
long was that delayed?
I don't know the timeline on the delay. But I can get back to you. We can get to your staff and let you know what that is.
I mean, my point is that we want to make sure what the timeline is for the new project. What can we do to not let or prevent this happening and be on time? And whatever the options we go, and we do everything what we learn from this to prevent happening this, making the same mistakes.
Yeah, we're making progress, but I will get to your staff the
That'd be great.
specifics.
Would you like me to address the underground
Sure,
question? Okay,
absolutely,
while
yeah.
you're looking. So Metro has what we call a grade separation policy. So grade separation just means we're separating the trains from other modes. So it could be above or below. And our policy is to always start with running the trains at grade, at street level, at ground level, because that's the most cost-effective way. So underground tunnels are something that we've looked at in very dense areas of the county. So downtown LA, Koreatown, Hollywood is fairly limited. The Purple Line is along the Wilshire corridor, which we are planning underground. When you look at dollars, again, we're trying to maximize the ridership across the county. Underground is over $1 billion a mile. And so that's why we start with a very cost-effective approach of, unless this is an extremely high-density area, we're going to study the ground option first. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't go in a different direction, but that's the starting place.
And the funding will be from the infrastructure bill, from the president, or from federal
So
funding?
in the past, a lot of our projects were funded through both local and federal funds. I think the idea of Measure M was to try and go faster and to collect local funds in a pretty ambitious way so that we weren't relying on the federal government as much. However, a lot of our projects are a combination of local and federal, and you know, we would love if there was an infrastructure bill that came through. That would be wonderful. So.
Our current approach is to stick with state and local funding, though, and not go after federal funding for this project. And that'll help us expedite.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to clarify, I guess I was speaking for Metro as a whole, but for this project, we are looking at local funds.
Yeah, I'll come back to other questions. I'm going to have my colleague to address other questions. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Metro staff, for your presentation. I have a few comments. First of all, a public admission. I am a holder of a Metro tap card. Actually, I have tap cards from about 10 different municipal transit systems throughout the United States, also overseas. So I've been a user of the Metro system, both the Blue Line, Red Line, or different names, also the Silver Line from the Artesia Transit Center to downtown Los Angeles. So when I hear from individuals in the audience who are part of the ridership, I understand what the problems are, not knowing if a particular bus is going to arrive on time, how long the wait will be, and other interruptions in the system. But let me speak first to the issue of, as my colleague mentioned, Councilmember Sheikh, about a fourth alternative, which would be a fully underground alternative. I know for purposes of today's meeting, I stand together with my colleagues, in supporting the current Torrance position. But I do believe that for the South Bay communities, this community has been underserved by Metro in the past. But I think if we work together, and I mean also together with our regional partners, the cities of Lawndale and Redondo Beach, perhaps the fourth alternative might be while it is a more expensive solution, I believe it may be a more compatible solution in creating access to the South Bay, which will benefit the businesses that are concentrated on Hawthorne. So I know that this could be possible with federal support. Over 20 years ago, I became engaged in the Regional Connector Project, running from 7th and Figueroa to the Little Tokyo Arts District Station, and then to Union Station. Early on in the process, excuse me, the locally preferred alternative was an on-grade through the center of Little Tokyo, connecting to the Little Tokyo Arts District Station. Of course, the local community opposed the on-grade because it just would have created too much traffic in a very dense ethnic community. So instead, myself and other members of the community reached out to a member of Congress who at that time saw fit to place an earmark in the federal budget to increase the budget for the regional connector to ensure that the entire system was fully underground. So I'm just speaking out loud right now, that as I've listened to those members of the public share your concerns about the right-of-way, I've also reached out to friends in the city of Lawndale to hear their concerns too. And as I said, while I do support the current Torrance position, I would really like to encourage all parties along the line, and also with our, our transit department, also with Metro and our other stakeholders to consider if a fourth alternative might better serve the residents, and then work cooperatively to, seek I guess, the best course of action. Because if we're investing our tax dollars, I believe that we should invest it in the best way possible, and not just for ourselves as of today, but for our children and future generations. So once again, I do appreciate all parties' presentations, but I would like to state that I want to keep an open mind to alternatives, and look forward to working with all parties. Thank you.
Thank you. I too have obviously my concerns about really both Hawthorne Boulevard and the right-of-way have their issues. I guess sometimes we have to go down the lesser of the two evils, but having a fourth option would be ideal. But of course, whether it's cost prohibitive or not, I think Councilman Sheik brought it, shed some light on the fact that this decision, which is not necessarily ours, we're just taking a position. So I believe that the board ultimately has so we might take a position for the right of way, and they decide to go down Hawthorne Boulevard. That could be, I would imagine that could be an outcome. But yeah, decisions we make, decisions they make, will affect the community for a very, very, very long time. So we do have to be careful. I think one of the guest speakers mentioned taking a early position. I tend to agree, in part, because I know this has been going on for a long time. There's a lot of information that has been shared, both here and to the public. I do wish there was a fourth option. Underground I think would probably be better, and I ask if we could include that in our letter, saying that fourth option would be ideal, but in absence of a fourth option, we'd prefer whichever position we might want to take tonight. So this particular item is asking for us to accept and file, and also make a decision on that position on the letter that we're going to be sending out. I don't know how effective a letter is. I don't know how much pull the city of Torrance has, but I do know that it's not just the city of Torrance that we're going to be affecting with our decisions, so we do have to keep that in mind. I think if any other municipality was to make any decisions that affect Torrance, we would hope that they would, keep us in mind as well. So we kind of have to reciprocate those thoughts. I guess I'm looking for a motion and explain what you would like in the letter. Whoever wants to make a motion.
I have a question, Chair.
Sure, thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, and Councilman Kaji. Do we know if eminent domain will be to purchase some of the houses, or anything to be done to the one that we're taking the position, the city of Torrance is taking the position? Do we have any figures on that?
So, just to clarify, at this stage, we're not planning to need any homes to construct this project. I think that's an important thing. That's not to say there are not other properties that would be needed either temporarily or permanently to construct the project. Eminent domain is a tool. Metro tries very hard not to use it, so it's a rare tool that we use. We typically work very hard to work with the property owner, but this time, we don't have that information. It could happen, but we would work very diligently to try and avoid that.
But some of the community members expressed their concern that their house is very close to what, so at this point we don't know, but we're not 100% sure.
So the metro right-of-way it varies in width, but in most areas it's around 100 feet, which is enough room to have 2 light rail tracks and a single freight track, which is there today, and have buffer from the adjacent property. Now, Hawthorne Boulevard is, also varies in width, can be almost 200 feet in some areas, curb to curb, and most, I think it's a little bit over 100 feet. So we would also be constructing in the middle of the street. Now, there are a few areas where we would be turning, so towards 190th, when we turn off, or when we turn off the 405, there are some properties where we would probably need to put columns to support the structure.
Thank you. I think our city manager want to interject.
If this point of information, in the South Pasadena area, the Gold Line does run parallel to residential areas. And Metro has done mitigation efforts such as walls and traffic calming efforts, and the trains run much more quieter than a existing operation. And that's, I'm sure, part of the background that Metro staff can verify, or that may be just one example that I'm aware, and we would encourage, obviously Torrance residents or neighboring residents who have been told, have been to the area and are aware, not necessarily address their concerns, but there are examples where there's existing rail that runs in similar circumstances with the existing residential.
And we've done tours in the past where we've taken out members of the public and Torrance City Council members to take a look at that route, and happy to take you out again.
Yeah, yes, Kim Turner. I was gonna say, because we have new council members, maybe we need to coordinate another trip and take you guys out there as well. We'll provide the transportation.
That'd be great. Of course, visiting a site and living there is two different things. I mean, let's face it, I wouldn't want that kind of service to be expanded behind my house. I understand the thought that's been shared as well, that, you buy a house next to a railway, you're gonna have trains, but I'm in real estate, and when we sell a home near railroad tracks, we usually provide a train schedule. And if, for instance, I'll give you an example, if the train runs twice a day, is one thing, but then if it's gonna be 100 times a day, it's gonna be another. So there might be some negative impacts on property values that we need to possibly address.
From Chair Matucci, from some information that I have firsthand, at least in the areas where there's been station proximity to a rail development, these light rail, with some transit-oriented projects, there seems to be some interest in certain communities where folks prefer to live near a metro station, and then it's had the reverse effect where some of the values of these projects and homes have actually increased. Granted, that's again proximity to how much space to walk, and what type of job centers and educational opportunities, but there are instances where there has been an impact on.
I'm sure there are.
Yeah,
I mean,
so there's I'm
examples
not
on both
undermining
sides,
the
yeah.
potential adverse impacts, but there are some evidence of us actually supporting development along the rail stations.
I grew up next to railroad tracks. After a little bit, you kind of become immune to it, but nonetheless,
It's an impact.
It is an impact.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say that during the time that they gave us the tour, we did meet with some of the residents, and they said that because it's light rail, they barely hear it. It's a different train.
Yeah.
So again, I think we need to go out there and visit, and just so when we do talk to the public, we're speaking from experience.
And I totally agree with you. I mean, the position we are taking, it's very good, and I 100% agree with you. That makes sense, and it has less impact, and also it's going to be quieter train. It's not going to be too much for the neighborhoods, but we still want to see if there's an alternative that we could do. That, and that will be quality of life. And that's going to be probably 100 years, over 200 years. It's going to be there for 100 years or more. Do we have any time frame to make a decision on this project, or as a city, or?
I believe we're just taking, if I may, we're taking a position on, as a city, what we feel is best for our city. So I don't think there's a particular time frame, correct?
We're taking a position so that we can provide Metro with a letter of support. As Mark and Georgia indicated, they're moving forward, and we'll be going to the board in January. So we need to do it now, and we'd like to get your support to do the letter and take it to council. next month and keep it moving so that we're in the queue. Because we are gonna do a letter campaign to get signatures and things of that nature, so we wanna make sure that the residents know that this is part of what the council's moving forward.
And as a point of clarification, the Transportation Committee is making a recommendation to the full council, in essence. And council may, upon further deliberation, concur with your recommendation, modify it with the caveat of perhaps adding a fourth option of a fully underground. Those are all recommendations that you can make to the council. Sooner we do this, it'll allow staff, as the Transit Director Turner indicated, to continue to engage our community. And I know for a fact Redondo Beach has taken a formal position, and Torrance has as well. We're just going to update and reinstate our position, at least with now knowing that the Hawthorne alternative is under consideration.
Correct. And I also want the public to know that we're not the body, neither this committee nor the city council is the body that decides where it goes. We can only make suggestions based on what we feel will less impact. Nonetheless, it will impact somebody, and that's why I think a fourth option may be something that we should really try to consider or push. So, do we have any motion? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept and file the Los Angeles Metro update and the City of Torrance update, and also to direct staff to bring forth a support letter to the City Council to reaffirm the City of Torrance's support for the railroad right-of-way alignment and opposing the Hawthorne Boulevard alignment, and offer a fourth option, which would be a fully underground, locally preferred alternative.
Second.
Chairman Martucci,
Yes.
Committee Member Sheikh, Committee Member Kaji.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion carries.
Thank you. All right, going to move on to public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for comment on items not on the agenda or on topics of general interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Transportation Committee. Under the Ralph M. Brown Act, City Council cannot act on items raised during public comment, but may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed, request clarifications, or refer the item to staff. Each speaker will have 1 minute to share comments, and if we have any speakers, you can approach the mic and speak on something that was not previously talked about on items 5A, B, and C. Mr. Porkchop?
Hello. I think we did not talk about this one, but yesterday we were talking about having electric buses, but I just can't believe it, because we don't have power stations, we don't generate electricity. So this is like having a pair of socks, but you don't have a shoe. What do you have it? So if you're gonna have electric buses and all these electric cars mandated by the state of California, better build some power generating plants and go to Redondo Beach to those idiots. We need that generating plant. We don't need a park there. We have a generating plant. They could just refurbish it, modern.
Thank you. Thank you, Porkchop. Anybody else wish to be heard? All right, we'll move on to any questions or online submitted.
There currently aren't any questions online. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I guess we can do item 7, some closing remarks. All right. At this time, I will turn the meeting back over to staff liaison for for the conclusion, including a summary of the committee's recommendations and next steps. Staff?
Mr. Chair, we've reviewed 3 items this evening. The first 2 items, which is a service change to the transit center, as well as a service duplication matter, is accepted and filed. The third item, we accepted and filed as well, but we'll also be preparing a letter of support for council's consideration to reaffirm support for the right-of-way alignment with requests for consideration of a 4th option, which would be an underground option for that extension. Staff will be preparing an item for the next upcoming city council hearing, kind of overviewing the presentations as what we've heard tonight, and to provide the city council with a report of this meeting.
Thank you. Any other comments from staff? We're good? We're good, all right. Let's move on. So on behalf of the Transportation Committee, I would like to thank our guests from LA Metro, Georgia, I'm gonna have to, please correct me, Sheridan. English is my second language, so I apologize. I have an excuse. Mobility Corridors Project Manager and Sea Line, Green Line Extension to Torrance, and Mr. Mark Garking. Close enough, huh? My gosh. All right, Community Relations Manager for the Gateway in the South Bay. I would also like to thank members of the public for participating in these important local matters. Thank you all for joining us today. At this time, I will ask my colleagues for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Chair Machuji,
Yes.
Committee Member Shea,
Yes.
Committee Member Dukaji.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion carries.
Thank you very much, and please stay engaged and let us know how everyone feels, and good night, everyone.
So where?